Hey guys, I'm Pascal from Orange Pixel, and today we're gonna talk about this thing. No, not the bag. No, wait, there's something in the bag. And we're gonna talk about this thing. The Nintendo Switch. The question I get a lot is, are my games coming to the Nintendo Switch? And the answer usually is, if I could, I would. And the problem is, I can't. So this video I'm going to talk about all the things that are involved in getting a game running on other hardware or console hardware. So while I set up this little Switch, check out the intro and we're going to talk about the Switch, the PlayStation, the Xbox and everything. But first I'm going to set up the Switch. Hey guys, sorry. So I just said I was gonna set up the Switch and everything, and for you that was a few seconds ago. For me that was almost a week ago, because I've been playing the Switch a lot since I set it up, and I really want my games on the Switch. So yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that next year, because it's not something as easy as pressing a button and presto we have games on the Switch. It's a little bit more work, and that's what I want to talk about today, because I get a lot of questions, as mentioned before, about getting my games on a Switch or any other hardware, and usually I have to tell the people no. And even though I have a few games on the 3DS and a few games on the PS Vita, let me just walk you through the whole process of getting games ported and why it's so difficult to get games on consoles. So so let's get going. Alright, so getting a game to run on different hardware isn't a matter of pressing a button. Even the best tools that actually support multiple platforms are not just a simple press of a button and done. There's a lot more work involved. In my case, I use an engine that doesn't really support the Nintendo Switch or any other console. So if I want my games to run on console hardware or any other hardware, I need to write it or rewrite it in a completely different engine or language or whatever the options are, which is a lot of work, because that's basically like rewriting a book in a completely different language, like a very thick book, and that's a lot of work, and you need to know what you're doing, you need to understand the console, you need to be able to program or write in that other language. So the main thing to come up with is, which game engine are you building your games on? For me, I build them on libgdx, which is a free engine available for everybody and runs on Java. The downside of the engine is that it doesn't support any console in any way. So basically, if I want to get my games running on a console, they need to be rewritten in a completely different engine that does support the consoles. So my games Gunslugs and Heroes of Loot are running on PS Vita and 3DS, but they are completely rewritten, and those two versions are also different versions from each other, so there are at least 3 or 4 different versions of my games out there. If I change something in the main version for PC or mobile, it doesn't mean those games also get those fixes, because it needs somebody else to work on those fixes and implement them in those versions, which is a lot of work, and using one engine that actually does all those things could help, but sadly I haven't learned those engines just yet. So one of the steps I hope to do in next year is probably learn a new engine that does support console, because it's the easiest way for me to get my games on a console, because I'll be able to actually maintain all the code bases, everything myself, without having to ask other developers to do the work for me. So that's a lot easier, and I'm still pondering which engine I want to use, because I haven't really made up my mind. It's probably going to be Unity, although maybe Game Maker. I'm still deciding between those two. We'll see next year, I guess. Which brings us to the second option, because if a game engine doesn't do the work for you, as mentioned before, there are developers who can do the work for you. So let's talk about partnering up. So another way to get games on a console, which is what I've done with the games on the 3DS and the Vita, is partner up with another company which is capable of taking your code, rewriting it in the right language for the right engine for the right hardware. Which is basically comparable to, let's say you get a huge dictionary in your own language, and then you need to translate it to English or Dutch or whatever. Every page, every word needs to be translated to another word in another language. That's really what porting is. Luckily, there are a lot of companies that thrive on this because there's a lot of porting going on. A lot of games need to be rewritten in other languages. So there are a lot of companies out there that actually do this, which is also the downside because a lot of games need to be rewritten, and that means there are a lot of job opportunities and a lot of work. And having a small game, like my games are still fairly small, they just aren't as interesting to companies like porting something like Minecraft or Stardew Valley, which are $1 million games. Porting those games is obviously a much better payday than porting my little orange pixel games. But it's still possible to find partners that have the skills to do it and are interested in doing it. So that's another option that I'm looking at for next year, because maybe I'll need to just partner up with somebody who can do the Switch code for me, or maybe even PlayStation or all those things. So another option I'm keeping open, and we'll see again next year how that goes. But let's say all those things work out. I either change engine or I partner up somebody, so we get one of my games up and running on the Nintendo Switch. There is a final step: publishing it. Okay, so publishing is slightly different from the PC or the mobile versions. If I want to release a game on PC, basically all I have to do is just upload it somewhere and you get to download and play it. It's really that simple, and on the Android or iPhone app stores, it's also fairly simple. Just upload the game, even though on the iPhone, Apple will always check the game, so there is already a little bit of a gatekeeping there. And I believe that console owners are doing slightly more gatekeeping. They want to check more, control more, which is all fine, because I understand that they want to sell their hardware, and the best way to sell good hardware is to have a good marketplace and not just full of junk. So I get it that they might be slightly stricter, but on console I have no idea what the best route is. You probably need contacts, because having contacts always helps. Like having a contact on Steam helps getting your game up there. Having a contact on Google on iPhone, it always helps getting some publicity there. So if I want to release on something like the Nintendo Switch, I'll probably need to find some great contacts at Nintendo that hopefully help me get the game a little bit more publicity, because the game might just be available and nobody will know about it. So there's a whole new world that you need to dive into, which is also why I got the Switch, just to figure out how do games work, how do they use the buttons, how do they play, and how do they feel, and how do they look. Is it even viable to get my type of games on this? And based on the indie games I've seen, it should be pretty much at home right there. So it's a lot of stuff that I need to figure out, and I do want my games on any hardware that's out. But it's just always very hard to get games published and released and built for consoles or other hardware that's there. So for the people asking if my games will be available on the Switch next year or the year after, I don't know. I hope so, because I really want my games on it, but I just don't know. It means I either have to learn a completely different engine, which is a different workflow as I have normally, which takes a lot of time to learn, which means I need to learn that and can't create a new game. And games are still my income, so if I don't make any income, I have a problem by the end of the year. So I need to mix all that up with learning something new and creating a new game, which is hard. Or I need to find another developer who is interested in turning my games into Switch versions, which is also hard. We'll see. I'm gonna try it, that's for sure. I'm gonna put it in my bullet journal as one of the things I want in 2019, getting a game on the Switch. Even if it's just one game, I want a game on the Switch. So we're just gonna try and make it happen. And that's it for this week's video. If you have any questions on hardware or porting or whatever comes up in your head, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. Twitch time. Yeah, baby. Pokemon, here we go.